doing? That's how you load your spare rounds. Keep everything in place, and then just use your hand.
In today's video, we're talking about spare rounds, when to use them, what races use them, and how to use them. How's it going, biathlon fans? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian Halligan, and this is my YouTube channel about biathlon. Also, at the end of the video, I have a giveaway alert, so you're gonna wanna stick around to see how you can win some awesome biathlon components. Spare rounds or relay rounds or individual rounds are extra or spare bullets that an athlete carries with them in their rifle stock in order to use them during the race in the event that they need an extra bullet. Now, there's even a race format where you actually are allowed to legally use more than 5 shots to hit 5 targets, and that's the relay. Now, most biathletes know that spare rounds are used in the relay, and basically what that means is you get 8 shots in order to hit 5 targets. They do this because of TV, and when people are in the penalty loop because they're missing targets, it's not as fun and it's not as exciting. There's a few very important rules that you need to remember when it comes to spare rounds and hand loading rounds. Number 1, you can only load 1 magazine per shooting. So let's say you're in a relay race and you need to hit a few extra targets, but you completely forgot to load your spare rounds. You can't just swap out your magazines and shoot away. You have to either raise your hand and ask a range official for some spare rounds, or just take your extra magazine, unload a few rounds from the magazine, and then you have to hand load them individually. Another rule when it comes to hand loading spare rounds is you must take at least 5 shots in a shooting stage. So, let's say you're in a normal sprint race and for some reason you accidentally realize you forgot to load 5 bullets into your magazine. You can load a spare round in order to get that 5th shot off. You can even use spare rounds if you do load 5 shots and one of them for some reason was a dud. You can eject that round, load a spare round, and then you can get your 5th shot off. Another situation where you might want to use your spare rounds, let's say you completely forget to load your magazines. I mean, Martin Fourcade has even done this. In his situation, he raised his hand and he got a spare magazine from his coach. However, another solution to this problem is you just take your spare rounds and hand load them individually. No, your shooting is probably not going to be the fastest stage you've ever had, but it's better than maybe waiting around for a range official who doesn't know what they're doing, they don't understand the situation, and they're just being slow. Now, one question that I often get is, let's say you accidentally pull the trigger and you send a round into the sky or into the snow. Can I use a spare round in order to hit that last shot? The answer is no. The second the bullet leaves your barrel, it's technically a fired shot, and it doesn't matter if you weren't aiming at the target or it was a misfire or whatever, that counts as one of your 5 shots. So in that situation, you're not allowed to grab a spare round, unfortunately. Okay, so now that we know the proper uses of a spare round, let's talk about how to use the spare rounds. This is one of my biggest pet peeves in biathlon when I see people who don't know how to load spare rounds correctly. Very much like stage 1 and stage 4 in our shooting process, where it's all about speed, it's all about time. Loading spare rounds is very similar. It's all about efficiency and effectiveness. Now, I've seen a lot of athletes who just don't think about this when they're loading spare rounds, and they do a lot of things that are just completely unnecessary when it comes to loading those shots. One example, and I'm going to call him out right here, is Alexander Loganov. I can't stand the way that he loads spare rounds. You see, when he drops the rifle from his shoulder and holds it down by his waist to load that extra round, that's just a couple seconds here and there that he's wasting by dropping the rifle and then bringing it back up. Now, in my opinion, the most efficient way to load spare rounds is to just keep the rifle in your shoulder if you can, reach forward, and make sure you place the spare rounds somewhere where you can reach them without having to drop the rifle out of your shoulder. Now, there's plenty of places where athletes place their spare rounds. You often see them in the cheek, you often see them in the front of the stock if you have the standard on-shoot stock, and a couple other random places around the rifle. But what is most important is that you can grab your spare rounds without having to get too far out of position. Again, why I don't really like Loganov's style, if you can keep the rifle in your shoulder, whether you're in prone or standing, and you can keep all your hands in the right spot, and all you have to do is move your pistol grip hand to grab your round, load it, and get back in position, that's way more effective and way more efficient than completely losing your position, because then you have to re-find your position. Now, speaking of spare rounds, it's time for our giveaway. In today's giveaway, I am going to be giving away this, a biathlonstocks.com spare round holder. Now, I'm sure you already know this, but biathlonstocks.com is a growing component shop out of Canada that makes 3D printed biathlon rifle accessories. They make a bunch of small hand accessories that I personally totally recommend to anyone who's having trouble rebolting while they're in position. But today, we're giving away their spare round holder. Now, I've had this for about a month and I've used it myself, and it's pretty awesome. Now, I'll be honest, when it first showed up in the mail, I was a little concerned because it's just basically a 3D printed block and there's no screws or anything on it. And I was thinking, how the heck is this going to stay on my rifle? But after putting it on the rifle and giving it a go, the dovetail slides onto your sight rail tightly and that's not going anywhere. So I want to send this to you, one of my viewers. How can you win this spare round holder from biathlonstocks.com? Well, it's simple. There's 2 steps. First, you got to go hit me up on Instagram. Go find my Instagram, BHBiathlon on Instagram, and go over to biathlonstocks.com on Instagram. Like both of our pages, and at the end of the month, end of July, we will be picking a winner, someone who likes both of our pages, and this is going in the mail to you. But what if you don't win the spare round holder and you really want one? Well, you can head over to biathlonstocks.com and use the code Brian Halligan, all one word, all caps, in checkout to receive 10% off your order. And that's everything on their website. Like I said, they have more than just spare round holders. They have palm swells, hand stops, on-shoots clip ends, Fortner bolt extensions, Fortner handle extension, butt hooks, and even standing blocks. All 3D printed, and you can usually get them in the color that you want for the people who are going for a color scheme on their rifle. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about spare rounds is practice makes perfect. Now, we see very often at the junior levels that athletes don't really race relays very often at the club level. So when an opportunity comes to use a spare round, whether it's because of a misfire or they actually are racing a relay, there's a ton of fumbling with a rifle. The best thing to do is every once in a while, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, just do a practice where you only load 4 rounds in your magazine and put the spare round in your spare round holder. That forces you to have to go to your spare round holder in order to load that last round, and it just helps you build that spare round competency. This is all stuff that you need to be able to do in a race, so it's worth practicing every once in a while during training.